Thursday night, we're having a reminder, Thursday night's webinar. Not webinar, Wednesday night's webinar. Thursday night's the lab. And then on May 19th, about 3 o'clock, we're going to be meeting out there for just a couple hours. All right? At Charlotte Latin, and we'll go through and get everybody all set to go. All right. Now, wanted to just throw out to you, we're going to talk about bad designs because there's something to be gained from bad designs. Now, some of these designs we're going to look at and go, oh, wonder why that was a bad design. Right? This doesn't look like a bad design. Well, it might have just come out a little bit late. Then other designs are, this is really a bad idea. How did this ever get very far? You, as an engineering student, would be going, I'm not sure I would even do that. And I will show you some of those in a minute. All right? So, for example, you've got this. And I put this one up here just because the name was. It was a small business. It was going to be a passenger service from Britain after World War II. It was called the Accountant. And they were going to use turboprops. But the problem is the turboprops, it came out when a time when jet engines were coming in. So they wanted to use new technology that was called turboprops. But by the time they got the turboprops working, jets had already come in. Great story about jets. You hear of Curtiss Wright planes very much anymore? Do you know by World War II they were one of the top dogs? But the person running Curtiss Wright, when it was presented a jet engine, said people will never get in it, they'll expect a prop. Or he reportedly said that. And you got to remember, he forgot he was in the transporting people in airplanes business. He wasn't in the propeller engine business. We as business people and engineers need to recognize you don't really sell a drill, you sell the capability to drill, to make little holes. And if you can do it with a spinning motor and a bit, great. But if you can do it with a laser, even better, it works better. That's what you really sell. All right. Here's the German. I'm going to see if we can bring this all up so you can see these. This is called the Blum und Voss BV238. Blum Voss. And it'll be Voss, not Voss. The V is different. All right. Now, a couple of things to know about this. One, it was huge. Huge airplane. But it came out in like nearly 1945. That's a problem if you're in World War II, right? Let me see if anybody's got questions here. Let me forget. Just post your questions if you have them. So, this plane was built by the Germans. They said, hey, we're going to build a C. This is what a flying boat basic design. It would help them because their Navy was really didn't do a whole lot by the end of World War II. That was the strategy. 6 big engines, super heavy, one of the heaviest planes flying by the World War II. And just honestly, by the time they got it done, the war was over. So that's a design that might not have been a bad idea at the beginning of the war. Here's another version of this. This is called the Boeing Sea Ranger. All right, again, aimed at World War II. The engineers that worked on this were probably started becoming engineers in, say, the 1930s. Flying boats were great in the 1930s. They became less great once we started putting airstrips everywhere. Flying boats are great when you're someplace you're going to land and there's no place to land it. You don't want to land in the airport. And there is something appealing about being in a flying boat type aircraft and you're down in the Caribbean, it's just you and your family, and you're just going to land anywhere and anchor the airplane and jump out, swim a little bit, to get in the airplane and fly away. Sounds really cool, really appealing. But the reality of it is, by the end of World War II, we built runways everywhere during the war. There was no reason to have a flying boat. And so there's always these trade-offs. Nothing else, then you got to design the boat to be big and wide so it can act like the plane to be big and wide to act like a boat. If you make it narrow and sleek, it's going to be faster. So this is a perfect example, not to really pick on Boeing or the Sea Ranger, but it really was too late. And you as engineers are going to always have that competition. I think it's going to be really hard right now for anybody, unless come out with something to replace Facebook or Google or say Twitter, those three biggies. Someone will over time. Someone will come up with something that works better. But right now, it's hard to see how. You're a little late. If you came out and said, hey, I had this idea for doing all of our regular life on our personal life. Well, you're a little late. All right. Here's one that came from World War II. It's called the Bolton Paul Defiant. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Bolton Paul Defiant. This is a case of metal getting into the airplane in the start of World War II with a plane that's underpowered and underperformance. And they even decide that someone in the back seat can shoot better than someone who's trying to fly the airplane and shoot. And so they put the guns out of the back of the airplane. And the first Luftwaffers did get shot down because they came swooping down on it and they weren't expecting to have bullets come out from the back. But once the Luftwaffe figured that out, all the planes were shot down. And I bring that up, and we're going to show some other planes where this happens. You as an engineer have consequences. Your design. If you are working to try to develop, say, technology to sense roadside bombs, your decisions, your designs can save or cause people to lose their lives. All right. And then you see this huge, it was one of the largest planes, bigger than a 747, the Bristol Brabazon. All right. A huge aircraft. A huge aircraft. But this bad boy used props in a world that was going to jets. The other problem, now you can always add more engines, but the other problem they're running into is when you start getting really big, your materials get tested in a way that haven't been before. So aluminum skin that worked on a B-17 bomber from World War II, big plane, but super fortress. This plane, they could tell failures there. So because of that, making it so big, when there wasn't even sure there was a market for something that big, not having jet engines doomed it. So it's doomed Bristol. Right now, they don't have it. Okay, Mateo's got a question. Let me go ahead. I assume the Flying Fortress is outdated today. Yeah. It flew pretty far. Flying Fortress was good for World War II. It was very good. The British thought we were nuts. We bombed the Germans during the daylight, right when they could see us. The British did it at night. The Americans basically made the calculation, we've got lots of bombers. We can build lots more bombers. We're just going to bomb them into nothing. I mean, that's basically what they did. You know. All right, here's an interesting story in this one. How many of you guys have ever heard of somebody called Howard Hughes? Raise your hand if you've heard of someone called Howard Hughes. See, one generation's rock stars, another. Well, he's actually before my time too. But he was one of the richest guys. And he would be like Elon Musk is today. He's a test pilot, designed airplanes, super brilliant, made movies. He was in the movie, he did all these interesting things. Well, towards the end of his life, unfortunately, he started suffering from mental illness. Became really super reclusive. But he was working on the Convair, this airliner and you can see TWA's got on the logo on it. It was an airliner that he insisted should have 5 seats across it. But all the customers said they wanted 6 seats across it. So by him refusing to make that change, to say, well, I think 5 is plenty of room, the other airliner said, no, we want to put 6 people. We make our money on ticket sales. And he was stubborn, wouldn't change. And so this jet never got sold to anybody in real quantities. And there's another one. This is another great big military aircraft, huge, came out, you know, middle and end of the war, was beat, Super Fortress beat it to the market. The Douglas Devastator was a torpedo plane, similar to something that George H. Bush, President Bush, his wife just recently passed. He flew this in World War II. Most of the people that flew these died. Everyone in the Navy that flew this, their plane was shot down. And the reason it did that was, if you're a torpedo, the idea was this torpedo hanging out of here, you would slow way, way down, drop the torpedo in, and it would sink the ship. In theory, that sounds like a good idea. In practice, though, we've all learned, going real slow and low on an airplane is not safe, right? Then think about slowing stuff. Oh, some of that. So not being able to go low and slow to drop that torpedo made you a really easy target. Really easy. And in fact, President Bush was lucky he survived. I have a friend that flew 400 carrier missiles. And he told me, being a naval pilot, the thing he feared more than anything else was getting stuck out in the middle of the ocean, because it's a huge ocean, they never find you. So again, gutsy guy doing that stuff. Now Mateo's saying, hey, the Corvair had 4 engines. Depends which one it is, but yes. All right, this one has 4. Symmetry on the, you see them right there and there. You'd think they could have mounted more engines on that one too. All right. Let me show you this one. Because here's the thing about the Mixmaster. As we look at these, the Mixmaster is interesting in that you can see it's getting close to what a jet starts to look like in the 50s. See how rounded shape? Now, they did want to put 2 separate cockpits, which the pilot said was the dumbest idea ever. They didn't like it, so they dropped that. But it's turbopropped on the back end, countersinking turbo things. But you can see where they're going with this. They've got the wings pulled back. Everything's done to reduce drag. So this turboprop idea is a great idea, but it takes them a little long to implement it. And by the time they do, they've got jet engines now. But you can see that was kind of an interesting design for that. This, yeah, now I like Mateo going, I don't think that looks like a great idea, countersinking. I think a jet engine works a lot better, and it did. Again, some of these planes I want to make them, what I would love to see Laminar Research do, and I've wanted to do, and maybe something I still need to do, is pay some people to make the 15 worst airplane designs out there, and then have you guys try to fly them on a simulator, just to see how terrible they flow. When we haven't really gotten to the cool ones yet that are bizarre here in a minute. We're going to go through this. This one, the Ferry Fulmore, they only put 1 machine gun in one right wing of this thing. They couldn't decide, is it going to be a bomber or a fighter aircraft, and it ended up being neither. So that's not real good. Okay? Kind of going a little bit quicker because I want to get us through this. All right, this is the Farman Jabiru. This is a passenger airplane. What's wild on this one, besides, all right, the cockpit's up here, the pilot with the takeoff sits up here in the cockpit, in the open air cockpit. Passengers are in here, which is a really ugly looking airplane. And, oh, by the way, what are they sitting in when they take off? Wicker chairs. Think about that one. I'm going to get on an airplane, wicker chairs. How well do you think those stand up in a crash? So, Mateo's still talking about that thrustmaster, saying that a lot of thrust, he's worried about the resistance And I'm going to guess, you know, the torque on those motors to push it through the air. Let me see. I've got a farm in here. I can show you another one. This company made a lot of ugly looking airplanes. That's terrible to say, but it's true though. So that plane looks. All right, so let me go ahead. Here's this plane. We're going to come back to this in a minute. So I get it that way. Here it is. Here's another one. Sorry. That's just. Here it is. This is another one of their planes. But look at the nose on these things. Not a very... I think they tried to make them more like ships. I'm not sure what. But not a handsome looking airplane in any sense of the word. And this is not the strange one. I'm showing you a later version. This one would have been even funkier looking. This is like the grandson of the one I just showed you. A rule in engineering is, with airplanes, if it doesn't look great looking, great flying airplanes often look like great flying airplanes. Now here's another Republic. Here's another one. It was going to be what we're going to use in our nuclear arsenal to protect the United States from perceived enemy of Russia. At the time, Cold War. Huge, another huge airplane. Look at big propellers. It just got replaced by jet engines. Okay. My first question, may I get off? That's a great idea. My first question would be, who bought the tickets? I want my money back if I walked into that plane. This one, Saab. When you see Saab cars, they actually make jets. And they would try to do things like this Saab. This one is they came out and tried to make a DC-3. Nothing wrong with DC-3, a very, very successful jet. The problem is they came out with this, you know, 30 years after the DC-3 came out, or 20 years. All right. Another one is, this is actually a pretty looking boat plane. I'm not going to criticize them on the looks of it. It looks like it could fly. The issue is it's a flying boat. Great in the 1930s, less so in the 1950s. This is just weird. It's called a short SB-6 Seamew. It was supposed to sit in an aircraft carrier, but you can just look at it. It was slow, it was heavy, it was supposed to chase submarines, track submarines. It didn't become anything. They literally put it in a cockpit of, it would literally like in a round hole on the carrier deck. The idea is they would sit, they would jump up on the carrier deck. You wouldn't launch them. They were so small they could just fly off. The wings folded off. Not a very successful plane. Short Sterling, another one came out late. Though the short Sturgeon just has this funny front nose that was ugly. We're going to go here. Now, here's where we get into some weird ones. We're watching it. This is this NSECMA Flying Calyptra, which I can't say. My wife is cringing right now, speaks French. This is actually one of these vertical setups, and you're going to see these were tried over and over again. So let me go get the YouTube video for this. All right, hang on. Why won't let me go forward now? Let me see. There we go. Watch this.
Now,
now this is a category. The planes have been showing you up to this point. You can say, well, there might not have been a bad idea. They were just a little behind. They didn't get to market soon enough. Okay, fair enough. Planes about to show you now. These are just weird designs that you wouldn't even draw.
I'm drawing now. Inside view, a little bit like I'm drawing now. The annular wing was was quite extensive in diameter and chord.
Here's the plane there, the idea that you would launch it this
and
way.
In there was an ATAR turbojet. It also had the gimbaled nozzle, but being inside an aerodynamic duct, it got some extra thrust through sucking air in hover modes and getting a thrust augmentation.
Snecma's creation was named the Coleoptère. The Coleoptère was truly an exotic airplane. At the bottom of its metal skirt were 4 small triangular stabilizers. Located beneath these were unique shock-absorbing landing gear with small castered wheels.
Casters. Yeah, that's a
the
good
wing was
plane.
attached to the fuselage by 4 radial struts. Only one Coleoptère was built. In the spring of 1959, the plane was hauled out of the factory under the cover of darkness. Before being flown, the Coleoptère was hoisted onto a rotating platform. The entire plane was then tilted up and down to expose the pilots to the unique sensation of flying a tail sitter.
Well, the Coleoptère, like the vertical tail sitters before it in America, the X-13 and the Lockheed and Convair tail sitters, still had this peculiar position for the pilot, a most unnatural position to fly. And when they'd come to the vertical after doing a decelerating transition, they had effectively to feel for the ground and no view downwards and behind them at all. And it's not a position that I think pilots would ever get used to. I mean, again, all this flying was done in clear blue skies and the rest of it, of course, and so they never really tested it under adverse meteorological conditions or with a big gusting wind.
But the Coleoptère was a revolutionary airplane, combining the uncertainties of a tail sitter with an exotic annular wing design was a bold venture. To underscore the pioneering nature of the program, Snecma held a unique photo opportunity. The Coleoptère sat perched next to Louis Blériot's historic monoplane. Test pilots of the world's newest tail sitter had a moment to sit and ponder the historic cross-channel flight made in the Blériot 50 years before.
I'd rather fly the Blériot. I have more faith in it. And I'm with Mateo. That looks dangerous. All right, we'll get into the Pogo here in a minute.
Looking inside view, a little bit like I'm drawing now.
Hoisting was
And I think clear meteorology.
certainties of low opportunity monoplane and pond.
Well, here we go. Coming to this in a minute. I'm going to pause it once it starts. All right. We'll show this in a little bit. All right. Don't worry, the French had that bad idea. We have plenty of our own. All right. So here's an idea. Let's put our Marines in a glider and land it on a beach that attacked the Japanese in World War II. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Yes, I know we tried that in Saving Private Ryan, but they put those gliders, were great big gliders, that were going to land somewhere on the fields of Normandy. Nobody was thinking, hey, let's take them on a beach. And oh, by the way, the gliders didn't really work out so well in Normandy. So that's why I don't do it so much. All right? So that is the Allied Aviation, and it was going to be a glider. No, it never did, Mateo. The pilots, that was a death trap. You can't land on caster wheels. We're going to show you in a minute. The Americans did get theirs to fly, and I want you to see that. Now, here's one that you don't see every day. And I'm going to go, we'll show it in a minute. Oh, well, I'll tell you what. Let's go look at the American one. I want you to see the American one. Here's the American version of what we just saw. Since he asked that question, I'm going to go ahead. Watch this one. This is called a Pogo, by the way. Which, think about it. Do you really want an airplane that's called a Pogo, like a pogo stick? You bounce up and down? Here you go. Granted, the quality here is not super great, but it's from the 50s.
Brown Field, located 16 miles from Convair, San Diego, and just 1/2 mile north of the international boundary between Mexico and the United States, has been chosen as the site for the second phase of the XFY-1 flight test program. The XFY-1, the first airplane wherein the thrust of the propellers exceeds the weight of the airplane, and the first to take off vertically, is powered by a muscle-packed turboprop engine. This power plant drives contra-rotating propellers, each of which is 16 feet in diameter. The XFY-1 airplane features the advantages of the Delta Wing, a design now successfully used on 3 other high-performance aircraft currently in advanced stages of development by Convair. The Delta Wing is used because of its ability to pull into the vertical without stalling. The XFY-1 first flew in June 1954 inside the huge Moffett Field dirigible hangar. For these first operations, the airplane was contained in a tethering rig mounted in an area of the hangar where the overhead clearance is 184 feet. These tethered operations permitted the safe simulation of free flight and afforded an opportunity to thoroughly familiarize the pilot with the airplane's handling characteristics.
Does anybody see some problems with this airplane? They want to put it on a naval carrier. It's on casters. Think about what I just said there. They want an airplane that the pilots, you're going to see them climb in this in a little bit. They have to use a ladder. They're on casters, and we're going to put this, oh yeah, on an aircraft carrier. Check this out.
Here's pilot Skeets Coleman with project engineer Burr Carroll. Coleman has had extensive experience in helicopters and practically all American fighter craft. Let's ask him about this morning's flight. What's the flight plan today, Skeets?
We expect to take off at takeoff power and immediately began the transition to the horizontal. We hope to have this accomplished by 200 feet, at which time we'll start a normal climb up to about 4,000 feet.
Well, Skeets, it's obvious that once you make the transition to horizontal, you are committed to reverse that transition to vertical in order to land. What preparations have you made to familiarize yourself with the technique required?
As a result of about 100-odd operations in both the tethering rig at Moffett and the pre-hover operations here at Brown Field, we feel we know a lot about the handling characteristics of the airplane.
Essentially, what is your procedure for landing?
We expect to make a normal approach in a conventional flare-off. However, at this point, we're going to depart from the conventional procedure. We take advantage of the lift characteristics of the Delta Wing. As we rotate to the vertical, the propeller will take over the lift and we'll make a normal touchdown. Excuse me, I have to go.
Look how he has to get in the plane.
The pilot's seat is adjustable through a 45-degree arc, enabling the pilot to fly vertically in a nearly upright position. No warm-up is required of the turboprop engine, which enables the airplane to take off as soon as the turbine is brought up to speed. The absence of warm-up is obviously a tremendous advantage to tactical operations. Visualize this takeoff in terms of squadrons in a ground support operation close behind attacking troops. No landing strip required, no warm-up necessary, no extensive base facilities, and nearly immediate contact with the enemy. As planned, the pilot makes immediate transition to level flight and begins his climb to 4,000 feet. For the moment, this airplane has lost its special identity, except for that big vertical fin. It is just another good close support fighter with excellent flight characteristics.
So that's the idea. And looks pretty cool. Now watch him try to land this.
140 engine of 5,500 estimated shaft horsepower drives the contra-rotating propellers. The huge blades absorb this power to produce an excess of 17,000 pounds of thrust, which makes possible the vertical takeoff of the XFY-1. The propeller wash-induced is sufficient as well to actuate control surfaces, even when the airplane is not in motion. In this airplane, as in the other delta wing aircraft, movable surfaces known as elevons attached aft to the wings combine the control effects achieved by ailerons and elevators in conventional airplanes. Although the pilot has never flown the airplane in horizontal flight, complete mastery is evident from the moment he is airborne. Control of the airplane in both vertical and horizontal attitudes is naturally and reliably achieved. Although this is no high-speed test, and no radical maneuvers are desired in a first flight, the XFY-1 pulls away from the chase plane with ease. This is both the slowest and the fastest propeller-driven airplane in history. In horizontal flight, the safety of this airplane, with its radical design concept, is exactly the same as a conventional propeller-driven airplane. The important difference is in the takeoff and landing runs. These runs are the slowest in the world, and the pilot can be safely ejected at any altitude over 100 feet. Compare this with fast takeoff.
100 feet. Gotta be 100 feet. Let me tell you something. You fall 60 feet, you're dead. Well, let's see him land it. All right. So he's trying to land it right here, hopefully. Okay.
Here's the approach for the landing. Notice the relatively slow speed at high angle of attack, which is normal for delta wing aircraft. A conventional airplane would flare out at this point and cut power, but the XFY-1 noses up and with the application of power literally and actually hangs on its props.
See you taking a helicopter, videotape it. Notice.
Skeet's estimate on how this maneuver would be executed has been confirmed. And now for the left down. Flight operation completed. The practical application of this new and radical flight concept, witnessed today in the Convair XFY-1, brings closer to implementation.
All right, let me show you something though. So I make it sound like it was. All right, hang on one second. We're not going to watch the whole thing here, but watch the landing on this.
I'm here to prove that Purple mattress blows memory foam out of the bedroom. Only Purple passes the durability test, body heat test, and the all-new HED test. or human egg drop test for the layman. The best test to determine a mattress's comfort and support. Ready, Billy? No, I just have to perfect. Just look at how the Purple Smart Comfort Grid made from a super comfy yet ultra...
Here it is. Why don't you see this video? What you realize is this is the guy really trying to land it. They did a lot of editing in that other film. This is the landings. Now, with all the new technology, he goes back and forth for like 3 minutes there. So when they have that promotional video, it lands it real easy. In real life, they have a heck of a time landing it. And they abandon it. The pilots get killed. I mean, it's just not a good thing. I think my thinking is, with quadcopter technology and stuff, you're going to see some kind of flying car that goes up and down. But that's much better technology than what they had there. All right? Anybody have a question? Poor pilots. I'm going to look over here in a question. Yeah. They're dead. They got killed trying to fly this thing. All right. Okay. Now let's go to the next one. Maybe I just said it, but I don't think I did. Here is a good one. Here's another idea of a plan. Let's put glider wings on our tanks. Then we can, at night, have our tanks fly over the enemy. We drop the tanks in, they're behind them, they wipe them out. All right? That is a Russian tank with great big biplane wings. The Anatov KT flying tank. I swear to God, I'm going to have to build an RC model of that someday after discovering this thing. And they had one test flight, and the Russian pilot actually survived it and flew back and thought it flew great. But then they started thinking through it. Well, wait a minute, get me straight. I'm going to fly gliders over the enemy. How hard would it be for the enemy to shoot down the gliders with the person in the tank? Not terribly difficult. So they just bagged that whole idea. All right? So, great idea in theory. In practice, I wouldn't have wanted to be that. But you can see it's actually a tank there. That's pretty amazing. This is an Armstrong Fort Worth. The reason I bring this up, it has these 3 pods. It has 3 sets of wheels at the bottom, 3 wings. The pilot couldn't see out of it until he got off the ground. Which begs the question, what does the pilot do when he tries to land it? And this is where you have a case of, to a certain extent, you have one engineer design it, another engineer's got to replace it, fix it, or fly it, right? Now here's an aero car. This is the old flying Avro car. Here, let me see something here. Bear with me. See what my thing of this says. So we've been trying to make basically a car jet kind of thing. To me, that looks more like a flying saucer. Yeah, here we go. And you're going to see they never could really get it to go real far. So here we go. Again, new technology. Some of this vertical stuff is coming, I think. Let me get that straight. Bear with me. Avro car. Avro car. All right, so you're going to start to see. Here's some footage film.
Police officer gets out and looks at me and says, "Sir, do you have a gun in your car?" So, "Oh, yes, I do. It's up here." So, "I need you to step out of the car, please."
Gotta love these videos. Basically, there it is. Think like a hovercraft.
In its current configuration, the Avro car was operating successfully in the ground cushion at a height of 3 feet and speeds up to 30 knots. Preliminary results from the new series of tests at Ames Research Center were also satisfactory. It was now desirable to extend the Avro car's operation, and the program was extended to include flights over various types of unprepared terrain and natural obstacles. Initial tests over gravel and small surface irregularities presented no problems.
The Avro was the last thing this airplane company from Canada ever made. This resulted in a lot of UFO sightings claims when it was this vehicle, and it never got higher than 3 feet off the ground. This is a version of the wooden hoverboards we made in lab.
We were now confident of the vehicle's ability to negotiate appreciable obstacles, and a rugged course, partially gravel and partially grass, with a 3-foot deep ditch, was selected for the next flight.
They're all wearing ties back in the day. There it goes.
Again, the Avro car covered the course successfully, becoming, as far as we know, the first ground effect machine to negotiate obstacles of this nature.
All right. Now, all right. Let's go ahead and stop on that. But it just used a turbine and it blew a lot of air through there. It was never going to, if you did that,
The
really
vehicle
did the
has now
math.
clearly
Let's stop.
demonstrated its ability to operate over
Stop. All right. Now, this was called the Natter, and basically it was a missile, and they put a cockpit in it. The idea was the Nazis flying it was primarily Nazis. It wasn't even the Luftwaffe. The Nazis flying this, they would launch it, steer it, and then jump off the airplane. Didn't do very well. All right. Look at this plane. Oh, here's a Blackburn Scout. Let me go back up here. Look at this. Let me just hit view, print out. Look at the shape of this body and this wing. So this is a bad idea. Another one I want you to see. Here's another, hey, we're going to take a glider and fly it behind enemy lines. Nah, probably a great idea. All right. Let me show you this. We got so many. Here was a V1. It's flying bomb, and they literally took this, was a rocket, and they put pilots in it with the idea that they would fly and do a better job. And they would parachute out after it ran into somebody. That was the plan. Let's go back here. Let me see if I've got the plane I'm looking for here. Oh yeah, this one right here. The Bonnie Gull. This was developed, even though the Wright brothers invented the airplane, a guy spent 30 years after the Wright brothers saying a plane should really fly, look more like a bird. And he spent all kinds of time looking at airfoil, angle of attack, incidence, all of them. Spent a lot of time in the design, confident it would fly better than a regular plane. If I have another example of the Bonnie Gull, You can look it up, B-O-N-N-E-Y. Unfortunately, the guy who designed the plane, after his friend said, please don't fly this, tried to fly it. It was tail heavy, which you all know. Tail goes down first, it's a bad thing. And was killed. It's called the Bonnie Gull. All right? Now, let me show you another thing out there. And I want to see. Let me come back here. Yeah, the Natter used just rocket motors to do it up there. Now let's jump out of here. Back down here. This, at the end of World War I, was a huge plane. Passengers are here. It couldn't be both a flight. It was going to try to use for the military, but it wasn't done. Notice there's only 2 motors on this thing. First of all, 3 wings, that far out that you can't see it here, but everybody sat up front. It was super nose heavy, and they crashed right after it flew. See, because back then they couldn't use something like this X-plane simulator for you to go, okay, that's not going to work. Let's not do this. All right? Let me see if I can find the one I want, the Capranini. This is it. This is called the Capranini. Look at all the wings. Hey, if 1 wing's good, 2's better. Hey, 2's better than 4's better. Look at all the wings, just like this. This is going to be a flying car. Now, right off the bat, we always say in class, you hear me say it all the time, avoid complexity in the beginning. This is nothing but complexity. Look at all the many things that possibly go wrong. Here's the 2 pods for landing on the water. Look how long it is. Doesn't look like it would want to squish. So this is a classic example of, if it doesn't look like it's going to fly, it's probably not going to fly. All right? Now, we got, honestly, I could spend another hour showing you all kinds of weird planes that are out there. And part of me would love to get some of these. Like I said, I want to get Laminar Research, let me design and build and explain some of these really oddball designs, and then let you try to fly them. Probably you'd find is they'd fly terribly, but they would look cool to walk around. All right, folks. Just a reminder, Thursday we have lab, 7 to 9. I think maybe somebody missed. They want to come in a little bit earlier. That's fine. And then on Saturday, the 19th, from probably 2 to 5. I've got to do a Science Olympiad event in the morning, and that'll come out, and we'll meet at the lab, and we will do engineering there. Someone asked me last, we're going to be announcing fall's survey. Can I just get an idea how many people will look like maybe do this next year? Want to do it again next year? With different, obviously we'll do different things with different tools. We're going to sign up for Young Engineers of Today again. All right, awesome. So what I would throw out to you then, great, put your hands down. All right, great. We'll get that put out shortly. I'm going to send out a survey. And would you guys all fill it out on things you'd like to do next year so I can go ahead? You know, we are going to do Arduinos. I'll tell you that right now. But I would like to do a lot with Bluetooth and wireless Arduinos. I went to, as some of the other people's in the class have, I went to the Internet of Everything meetup group. And so I think we can get up more speed to be able to do. I've been wanting to do more Bluetooth type things. So use your phone to control your robots, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing we're going to try doing. Okay? All right. Anybody got any more questions? Let me go down here and look. Or I can certainly look at more airplanes. I love looking at eyeball designs. Anybody got questions about these planes? Look at them on the control surface. Just look at this one. Oh, there are 3 pushers. They've got props on this end, props on this end. Look, you got props blowing this way here, props this one. This thing was going to be huge. And look, they used all these wires to try to hold it together. I will say this again. What could possibly go wrong with that design? And I won't pick on the people like in 1905 drew designs like this. They were learning how to fly. I'll cut them a lot of slack. But I know they should have known better. I forget what's special. There's something about this Convair that's just really wild. Oh, yeah. They were going to use on this plane, last thing before we go, they were going to use they were going to use a nuclear reactor to power this plane. Think about that. You're going to have a nuclear reactor following an airplane. It's not a question of when's one's going to crash. Airplanes crash. Sooner or later, one of them's going to crash. And now you're going to blow nuclear fission material around the world. They literally were so worried when the idea was they would have chase planes and there's behind it. So if one crashed, they could go right down and get to the radiation before it hurt anybody. Needless to say, the more you thought about that, I'm not sure we want to be putting nuclear reactors to fly great big airplanes. Yeah, flying nuclear bomb. And the idea was just like with our submarines. You know, the reason submarines come up out of the anymore, it's because of the crew. The machine itself can stand underwater almost indefinitely with the nuclear reactor. They wanted to do that with airplanes. If you made that plane big enough and the reactor small enough, you could do it. Luckily, cooler heads prevailed. All right? Well, it is past 8:55. Wish you guys, well, it's time to toy Wednesday. We have Lab Thursday, and then another Saturday after that. And then we have, I think, another week of webinars after this week. And then we're good to go for this year. All right, everybody. Have a great night. All right. Bye-bye. Bye, Mateo, Harry, Jean-Marc, Philip. Take care, everybody.